It's Friday, the 5th of August, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories that you need to know about in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, we've got 5 big stories and a couple of slightly quirky ones to get through today. So we better jump into it. Story number 1, Australia's trade surplus hit a new record in June of $17.7 billion amid booming iron ore, coal and natural gas prices and sales.
If you want to find some good news about the Australian economy, look for what we're selling to other countries. Now, the trade surplus measures what Australia is selling versus what we're buying off other countries. Since February, Australia's recorded surpluses of $7 billion, $9 billion, $12 billion, $15 billion, and in June, nearly $18 billion. All that adds to economic growth. The latest figures show a jump in exports, led by a rise in gold sales particularly. There was little change in imports. The result was much higher than anticipated. Now, apart from gold, we're seeing really strong sales of what you mentioned, iron ore, coal, and LNG. These figures come from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. The Bureau also took a deep dive into lithium sales. Australia accounts for about 50% of the world's lithium, and it's expected to contribute about $9.4 billion in revenue in a couple of years' time. That puts it in 5th place, only behind iron ore, coal, natural gas, and gold. Incredible. The growth in exports has already been extraordinary, more than doubling since May.
All right, on to story number 2. A national cabinet met yesterday, Sean, and most of the discussion was really on diseases, COVID, monkeypox, and foot and mouth disease.
That's right. After the meeting, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said he was increasingly confident that Australia had reached its peak Omicron winter wave as hospital admissions fell. Of course, it won't be the last wave. On monkeypox, Health Minister Mr Butler said there were more than 25,000 cases globally in 76 countries over the past 13 weeks. The government has procured more than 450,000 vaccines to help at-risk populations, including gay and bisexual men. And Agriculture Minister Murray Watt announced additional precautions to stop the spread of both foot and mouth and lumpy skin disease. The other big news yesterday, of course, the federal government's climate change legislation passed the lower house, 89 votes to 55. It now goes to the Senate. That will start when the Senate comes back in September.
All right, on to story number 3. And I mentioned we've got a couple of quirky ones today, Sean. Space debris found 400 k's south of Sydney belongs to a craft built by Elon Musk's SpaceX.
The Australian Space Agency confirmed that the space junk came from a SpaceX mission. Pieces of the debris were pretty big. In fact, I don't know whether you've seen the pictures, Michael. There was a farmer whose land it landed on. He was standing in front of it, and it was much bigger than he was, and it had speared into the hillside. Apparently, it's from something called SpaceX Crew 1 trunk. That re-entered the Earth's atmosphere on July 9. Ironically, last month, NASA was critical of Beijing after a Chinese rocket fell back to Earth over the Indian Ocean. It warned it could have killed someone. Well, at least that landed in the ocean. This stuff landed on Earth.
Indeed. All right. Story number 4, Sean. This is a cracker. We've heard for a very long time that automation is coming to get us all. Now there's a new report into the jobs most likely to be automated.
Yes, and finance brokers sit on top of that list. Not good news for them, followed by stockbroking clerks and, Michael, librarians.
Really?
Yeah. That's according to Fathom by Pearson's list of jobs. Now, as reported in the Financial Review, other jobs at risk include human resource advisors, all those HR people are in trouble, retail pharmacists, meteorologists, who's going to tell us what the weather is, and accountants. Tax inspectors will go. Not too many people upset about that one. Salespeople and road traffic controllers, or at least that's according to this list. The one, though, that really gets me, that's on the list, it's high on the list, pilots. I ain't flying a plane without a pilot, Michael.
No, that's a hard pass from me too there, Sean. Story number 5. Again, we've got a few quirky ones today, haven't we? This one I think you've got to firmly place in the category of unintended consequences of COVID. Apparently, podiatrists are seeing an increase in foot injuries among women due to the greater use of formal footwear, i.e. kind of high heels, as people return to the office.
Yes, there's a bunch of injuries being reported, from shin splints to plantar fasciitis, among people who haven't worn heels for a couple of years, according to a report in Bloomberg. During the pandemic, lower levels of activity and going barefoot led to weakness and tightness of muscles and tendons, apparently. Once the restrictions of the pandemic were lifted, many people, particularly women, resumed their use of heels for work without giving their body adequate time to transition back to their pre-pandemic activity levels. Hence, all sorts of foot problems.
All right, there you go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Friday, the 5th of August, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't long enough for you, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.